Okay, welcome back to our class. Before we start our new topic, now we will be reviewing some previous topics like the print function. Now, if you can still recall, the print functions now have an optional argument. Let's say this is optional. Okay. Okay, it has an optional argument like sep and end. So we will discuss that. We will discuss the applications of that when we reach string topic, under the string topic. All right. We also discuss math operators like addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, modulo division, as indicated by the percent sign. Modulo division is when you divide an integer, by the other integer, the result will be the remainder. So this is called remainder or modulo division. So double slash is what we call your double slash is actually your integer division. So when you divide, you divide 5 by 4, the result will be 1 because the result will always be an integer, ignoring the remainder. So we also have another operator which is raised to the power of by using the double asterisk. Okay, now we also learned how to create algorithms. That is a step-by-step guide to solve the problem. And also we experience solving basic mathematics, using Python. And we also know that data types such as the strings, integers, float, and Boolean. Now we will be tackling more of that data types now as we go along with our topic. And finally, our final topic is naming variables. No? Um, our previous activities, no, we actually named the variables. So naming variables can be uh, variables can contain letters, numbers, and the underscore. And take note, variables cannot have space in between. Okay, you cannot have two words as a variable, so it cannot have it. It does not contain spaces. Also, variables cannot start with a number. Okay, take note of that. That will come out in your midterm examination. And of course, no, um, variable is case sensitive. When we say case sensitive, like for example here, temp with a lowercase t and temp with an uppercase t, are actually different. So in naming your variable, it should be you should consider all of this. Okay, now we proceed to our new topic, which is the input function and the math module. So in today's learning objective, at the end of this lecture, the user will be able to read input from the user, use other math functions like trigonometric, logarithmic, exponential, hyperbolic, and inverse functions. Okay, we are going to solve some intermediate math problems, more complicated than the previous exercise. And also, in this topic, we are going to import modules. We will discuss later on what is these modules. All right, now we will start with the input function. So this is the basic structure of the input function. When we say input, it reads the user data from the keyboard. So the user will type the input or the data from the keyboard, and then the input function will read that data and then store that to a corresponding variable. So this is your basic structure, okay, of the input function. Oh, take note of this. Now let's try. Now let's have a sample code using the input function. Let's say name. No, name is my variable, and I want to prompt the user. So take note, in this input function, no, inside the input function is what we call your argument. So your argument here is message to user. What is your message to the user? So in this case, now I will be prompting the user to input no the name. Okay, let's try. Input. Okay, let's say enter your friend's name. First name. Okay, this is my friend's first name. Okay, now I will label this as first name. Let's say F underscore name. Okay, first name. And then I'm going to read the last name. Let's say last name is equals to input. Okay, okay. Enter your friend's okay last name. Okay, and the last one will be nickname. So I will be using this variable nickname or input. Sorry, this is input. So we will read the nickname of your friend. So enter the nickname of your friend. Okay, now, and then we are going to display, okay, okay. So we are going to display the name of your friend. So here, now we can have here, hello, hello, welcome to Python, comma. Okay, I have here my friend's name. So I will be using this method, the format method. Okay, I will be using the format method in this case. Now take note of the curly braces here. Okay, this is enclosed with a curly braces. Okay, I will be putting values inside this curly brace. Okay, so I will have a format. Okay, that format. Take a look at my code. Okay, so this is one way to print the values of your variable. So in the first curly brace, now I will be putting my friend's first name. So in this case, I will be using F name, comma, and then in the second curly brace here, okay, I will be putting my friend's nickname. So let's say nickname. All right. Okay. And the third variable, now I will be using my friend's last name. So I will be typing L underscore name. Okay. So that's how format works now when printing string values. Okay. Now let's try to run the code. Run the code. Okay. Pressing run button. Enter your friend's first name. So my friend is Pete. Hey Pete, are you there? Press enter. Enter your friend's last name. Huge. So my friend is Pete Huge. And enter the nickname of your friend. Oh, the nickname is Toy. So the output, press enter. Hello, welcome to Python. Pete, Toy, Huge. Okay, that's my friend's uh, full name, including the nickname. So any questions? By the way, no, you have here double quotation. So because I entered double quote, no, and then the nickname is inside. So let's again, no, let's enter the values. First name Pete. Second name, last name will be Huge. What's the nickname? Toy. Okay. Hello, welcome to Python. Pete, Toy, Huge. That's my friend's name. Okay. So that's it for our sample number one. Now, let's solve one example number here. Now, I have here, this will be our example number one. Now, we are going to ask the user to input two integers. Okay, now we will ask the user to input two integers and then print the sum. So, in this method, I will be using the wrong approach. Okay, take note, we are going to add two integers here. So this is the wrong approach. No, in adding two integers, no, from the user. Okay, let's have the variable here. So, so let's start with our algorithm. So we have my algorithm. Okay, number one algorithm. So what are we going to do? Prompt. Okay, we are going to prompt the user. Okay, let's say prompt the user to enter two integers. And then we are going to save store two variables. And then what are we going to do now? We are going to compute and display the sum. Okay, so this will be our algorithm. Now, in our first step, we are going to prompt the user to enter two integers and then store that to a certain variable. Let's say I will be using num1 as my first variable. And then we will prompt the user to enter, okay, the number. So enter the first number. Okay, let's say we will prompt the user to enter the first number, and for the second number I will be using num2, then prompt the user to enter, okay, enter the second number. Okay, now what are we going to do? If we have the first number and the second number, we are going to calculate the sum by adding num1 and num2. Okay, so after adding num1 and num2, we are going to display the sum. All right, using the print function, we are going to display the sum. The sum of, let's say, no, I will be using the curly braces, no, just like what I did, no, in my previous example. The sum of, okay, I will write here the sum of, okay, enclosed with curly braces, and another curly braces is another curly braces. Okay, and then I will use format. So format, the first curly braces is actually your num1. Okay, num1 comma. The second is num2, and the third one is the sum. All right, that's it now for our first example. Now take note, this is the wrong approach or the wrong method. So let's try to run the code, and then I'll enter the number. So this is first. Okay, again, stop. Okay, run the code. Okay, we are going to enter the first number. Let's say I will enter 50. Press enter. Enter the second number. Let's say I will choose 20. So what should be the result? I will press enter, and the sum of 50 and 20 is 50, 20. Oh, what happened here? So if you can still recall, in our first video tutorial under string, no, when two strings are added or added together with using the plus sign, the string are not actually added, but it actually merges. So the string merges here. Now take note, by default, the input function will take a string. This will take the data type string as the default data type. Take note of that. So the number you have entered now will be read using the input function, and it will return a string as the data type. So meaning to say the number you have entered here are all string. So if you add two strings, the result will be merge or concatenate. Okay, that's the result of two strings. Take note of that. Take note, this is the wrong method or approach. And here is the correct one. So I will just copy this code, copy, and I will paste it here. And take note, no, the value of num1 will be a string value, and we need integer values. So in this case, no, I will convert strings to integer by putting int, no, function here. So your int function converts string into integer values or data types. So meaning to say num1 and num2 will become integers. All right, not string anymore. So let's try to run the code. Okay, and we will be using the same value, 50 and 20. And charan, the sum of 50 and 20 is 70 because they are now, they are both integers. That's how you use your int function. Okay. So take note, int is to convert string to integer. Okay. How about if you are going to input a floating number? So for floating number, you can say float. Okay. Let's say float, meaning to say, now if you run this one, you can enter a floating number, like for example, 2.8 is a floating number, plus 6.9, also a floating number. Press enter, the result will be a floating number. Okay, now that's how it works. Float, integer, and here is the alternative solution. In this case, now I will be using eval. So I will copy this code, the algorithm from the algorithm up to copy, paste it here. Okay, now instead of float, now I will be using eval. Eval, eval. Eval will evaluate, no, the value or the string you have entered, now using the input function. So meaning to say, when you say evaluate, no, So it converts string to an equation, or what we call an expression. Like for example, if I'm going to input, okay, this is my number. Okay, this is actually the number I will enter, and will be stored to the variable num. So take note, the number, this is not a number. I'm actually entering a string, no? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 5. This is a string. Okay? So eval will convert this string to an expression. So meaning to say, this is now an expression after I entered here. Okay? That's an expression. So the expression will be resulted to, take note, 1 plus 2 plus 3, 6 plus 5, that's 11. 11 plus, let's say, 10 plus 1. This is also 11. This is also an expression. Okay? So when I press enter, oh no, the result will be 22. So the sum of 11 and 11 is 22. Okay? Because of the eval function. So eval converts string into an expression. Okay? That's how you use eval. So you can use any of these depending on the requirement of the problem. All right. Now we go to math modules. So Python math module is defined as the most famous mathematical functions, which includes trigonometric functions, representation functions, logarithmic functions, and etc. So furthermore, it also defines two mathematical constants such as pi and Euler number, and etc. So if you will use pi, not PIE, but I will change this one. By double clicking it, you can change. This is not pi as in tinapay. This is PI as in pi. Okay. Okay, now these are your functions under math module. So under the trigonometric functions, you have degrees. Degrees, okay, we call this one your degrees function. Okay, this function converts the angle x, no, from radian to degrees, meaning to say it converts radian to degrees. No, and another one, radian. No, radians now converts angle x from degrees to radian, meaning to say if you are going to use radian, so x here will be treated as degrees. Okay, whatever you have entered inside the function radians, it will be treated as degrees. Now once that function is executed, the result will be radian. All right, same is true with the sine function, sine. No? X here is in radian form. Take note of that. X is in radian form, meaning to say whatever you have entered inside the function sine, cosine, and tangent, it will be treated as radian form. Okay. So meaning to say, if you have entered degree, you should convert that first to radian. All right. We also have trigonometric functions, hyperbolic functions, logarithmic functions, and other functions. So other functions like ceil. Ceiling means returns the smallest. Okay. Okay. Returns, where is that? Ceil. Ceil means returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to x. Like for example, when we say uh, 1.5. So ceil 1.5, the result will be 2. It is actually round up. It rounded up the value to a certain highest integer. Or like for example, floor. Floor returns the largest integer less than or equal to x. Example, floor 6.5. No, it will actually eliminate the decimal point. So it will give you 6. That's how floor works. Also, we have square root function. We also have sum function, minimum, maximum function. Okay, now we also have math constants such as pi, pi, e, that's the Euler's number, INF, that's infinite, positive infinity. None, meaning not a number. Tau gives you 6.2831. Okay. Okay, now let's proceed to our second example. This is hypotenuse. Okay, now let me read the problem first. Solve the length of the hypotenuse of the right triangle by prompting the user to enter the values of the length of the legs. So in this case, now we will be calculating the value of the hypotenuse now given the sides of the triangle. Okay, now here is my algorithm. First, now I will read and store the values now entered by the user to a certain variable. And then I will solve the roots, or not roots, no, sorry for that. This is from the previous problem. So I will edit this one. Okay, okay. Calculates, calculates the hypotenuse, the length of the hypotenuse. All right, so and then we are going to display the value. Okay, that's it. Now display the value. Okay, that will be my algorithm, and this will be my program. In my first program, I will be using um, operators such as raised to a power or something like that. Okay, now let's start by reading and storing the values entered by the user. So I will give I will use the variable a here. Okay, I will be using variable a as the first value of the side of the triangle. So okay, now instead of using int, no, I will be using float, and then I will prompt the user to enter the length of one of the, let's say, of the leg. Okay, enter the first. We can label this as enter the first side. Okay, that's it. No? The letter B. I'm going to use E as my second variable, and I'm going to prompt the user to input the second side. Enter. Okay, dada. What is this dada? Let's say enter the length of the first side. Enter the length of the second side. Oh yes, that's it. Now I have entered the sides of the triangle, and now we are going to solve for the hypotenuse. Now I will label my hypotenuse as C. So if you can still recall the Pythagorean theorem, that is actually square root of a squared plus b squared. So this is my square root raised to 0.5. Okay, this is square root of, okay, something inside the parentheses. So in this case, I will be using a squared plus b squared. Now that's how you write a to the power of 2, that's double asterisk, b to the power, that's double asterisk. And Square root is actually raised to 1/2. That is also double asterisk raised to 0.5. Now that's the value of my hypotenuse. All right, now we are going to display the length of the hypotenuse. So therefore, the length of the hypotenuse is, no, okay, since this is only one variable, I will not be using the format function. Instead, I will be using the ordinary or the commonly used print function argument. So the length of the hypotenuse is c. Now take note, we did not use math functions here. Okay. Okay, now let's try to run the code. Okay, enter the length of the first side, let's say 3. Enter the length of the second side, let's say 4. So it is expected that the length of the hypotenuse is 5. Okay, now let's proceed to a math function. So this program also calculates the hypotenuse of the rectangle given two sides. Okay, using math function. So math function using math modules or functions. You can define that as math functions, math modules, math. Okay, okay. Before you can use any of these math functions, we are going to import that module. So we call that one your math module. So we are going to import that module so that we can use the function. So in this case, now I will import the math module. Okay, that's my first step. So import math. Okay. Anyway, now I will be discussing here different importation of a module. So in this case, in our first example is using the import math. Okay, import math. So I will copy some of this. No, I will copy uh, this code that will let the user input, okay, the value of the sides. Okay. Now to solve for C, now we will be using the math function square root. Okay, we can use square root, but before you use square root, you will call this module math dot square root is sqrt, and then you are going to input, okay, or square sum of the squares of the sides of the triangle. So that's how you do the square root function. So this is the square root function. Take note of the syntax here. So this is import math. So since we imported math from the math module, we are going to write math. We will call math and then attach that square root function followed by the argument. So in this case, the argument is a squared plus b squared. That's the argument of your square root function. And then I will just copy this one. Okay, copy, print. Okay. And then run the code. Let's see what will be the value here. Okay, run the code. Enter the first side, that's 3. Enter the second side, that's 4. And the length of the hypotenuse is 5.0. Okay, now the result will be the same. Now take note, in the first example, we did not use any math functions. In our second example, we import math module. So for our next example, I will copy this one, copy, okay, Control C, and I will paste it here. Oh no, okay, Control C again, highlight, copy, Control C, Control B. Oh, Control B. Okay. So take note. No, I have imported math module, but no, I will be representing math as M. Take note of this. This is how you shortcut the module. I also shortcut the imported module. So instead of using mat.square root, I will be using m.square root, and it will give you the same result. Let's try. Run the code. Enter the side. Let's say 3. Enter another one. That's the length of the hypotenuse, which is the same with the previous solution. Okay. Okay, that's it. So another one. Now, let's say we are going to read the module, but we will import only the square root function. So the square root function. Okay, I will copy the whole code here. Take note, I have imported the square root function. Now, from math, meaning to say from that module, we are going to use the square root function. So in this method, no, we can just eliminate that one. We will only use the square root function because this is the function we imported from the math module. Okay, and it will give you the result. Actually, this is the method I usually used in my calculation, especially if I'm doing calculation from math functions. Okay, let's try. Run again. Uh, will it work? Let's say 3. Enter the size 4, and the result is 5.0. This will give your code a better readability. Okay, users or programmers can easily understand because this is a square root, and this is actually your shortcut. Okay, now let's say another method. Another method is from the math module, I will import asterisk, means I will import every functions in the math module. If you are not sure what functions to be used, then import all function. Okay, now let's try. I will copy this one and then paste it here and then run the code and put values, and then the result will be 5.0. Okay, so meaning to say all 4 examples or 5 examples will give you the same result. Okay, different approach but the same result. Okay, now we go to sample problem number 2. This time we are going to prompt the user to enter 5 numbers separated by a comma, and then calculate and display the minimum value, maximum value, the sum, and the average of the numbers. Now, we have discussed a while ago that the functions or math functions includes the minimum value, maximum value, the sum in the math library. Now let's go over that again. The math library, it's here. Now this is all the functions. No, not every functions are written here. No, you can visit the documentation of that function in this link. The link is available here. And again, we used the square root function a while ago. This time we are going to use fsum, fmin, and fsum, min, and max to solve our sample problem number 2. Okay, now this will be sample problem number 2. Okay, here is my second problem, sample problem number 2. Now, let's start with the algorithm. So I have prepared an algorithm here. First, now we will assign variables to the numbers. Since we will be using 5 numbers, it is good to use also 5 variables. And then we are going to calculate and display the variables minimum value, the maximum value, the sum, and the average of the numbers. Okay, that's our algorithm. Okay, now we will start our code. So let's say this problem uses math function to solve no, the required in the problem statement. All right, now let's start our code no, by importing math module. So from, why is this form? From, okay, from math module, now I am going to import every function because I will be using 3 functions. So I will be using asterisk. Okay, now let's start by assigning variables to the numbers. Now I will be using A, B, C, D, E as my variable. Okay, now since we are going to input 5 numbers separated by comma, we cannot use float or int in this case. So in this case, we will use eval because no, it will convert no, whatever you have entered here to an expression. In this case, this is an expression of numbers separated by comma. So let's say enter 5 numbers separated by commas. Okay, that will be my message to the user. Okay, so input will read the value entered by the user in string format. Eval will convert the string format to an expression. So in that case, now it will become numbers with commas. So numbers with commas corresponds to now the value of A, B, C, and D and E. So that's it. No? Then we are going to use variables to emphasize the minimum value. In this case, I will be using mean value equals to what is the function that we will be using. Correct. So mean function. Mean function evaluates no, the lowest value no, in the argument. Okay, this is your argument. The argument is A, B, C, and D and E. Now, it will actually select the lowest value and store that to the variable mean value. Same is true with max value. Okay, max value evaluates no, what number, what numbers no, is the highest. So that's the max value from the set of numbers. Okay, that's your max value. And now we are going to calculate the sum. Let's say sum of number. Okay, that's it. The sum of number. We will use f sum. So f sum requires numbers enclosed with this square brace. Take note, this is a square brace. Now we are going to input the numbers there. This is actually a list. We call these numbers enclosed with these square braces. We call that one. We call this a list of numbers. Now we will discuss list of numbers now as we go along with our topic. And then now we are going to calculate the average value by uh, dividing the sum of numbers by 5. So that's the average value. And then we will print the result. Okay, now let's say, so print, okay, let's say print the minimum value, the minimum number is, okay, what is the minimum number here? Mean underscore value. Next, print Okay, the maximum value or number is, okay, comma, max value. Okay, and then we are going to print the sum. The sum of, okay, the sum is, okay, comma, sum underscore of numbers. Okay, and lastly, the average value. The average is, comma, average. So that's how you do your code. So the code is not that difficult, okay, because you have the function there. So my message to everyone is, before you use the function, try to read the documentation of that function on how to use that function. Okay, now let's run the code here. Let's enter 5 numbers. This time I will be using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that now by inspection, we already know that the minimum is 1, the maximum is 5, the average is 3, and the sum is equal to 15. Press enter, and then, okay, that's it. The minimum number is 1, the maximum number is 5, the sum is 15, the average is 3. Okay, again, let's try another set of numbers. Let's say I have here 56, comma, minus 12, 123, minus, comma, 0, comma, 4.7, and then 25. Okay, enter. So the minimum number is negative 123, the maximum is 56. The sum is negative 37.3. Okay, and the average is negative 4, negative 7.46. Now, if we are going to use a round off. All right, that's your example or sample problem number 2. Okay, now we go to sample problem number 3. Now, in this problem, we are going to calculate the cosine of a given angle by prompting the user to input the angle in degrees and display the result. Okay, now let's write the code. Okay, now let's start by doing your algorithm. Okay, now in this case, now I will be using comment now to write my algorithm. Okay, now what are we going to do next is to prompt the user. Okay, read data from the user. So the user will input an angle now in degrees. Okay, take note of that. Since we will be using the cosine function, and cosine function requires an angle in radian. So we need to convert degrees to radian. So convert degrees to radian. Okay, that's it. And then number 3, calculate the cosine of the radian angle. Okay, and then we are going to display the result. Okay, that's it for our algorithm. First, no, in our code, since we will be using math functions, no, so we will be using math functions. I will call the module from math. I'm going to import every function. Okay, now since we will be using here conversion, now from degree to radian, if you can still recall, no, we know how to convert degree to radian back in our set of functions. All right, now we are going to input an angle. This time, now I will be using the variable angle, and then we are going to use float here. So float is okay, since you can input an angle now with a decimal point. let's say input, enter, enter the angle in degrees. Okay, so the angle entered now is in degree format. So what are we going to do next? Now we are going to convert that angle to radian. Okay, now I will be using another um, variable. This time I will call it angle radian. So meaning to say this is the angle in radian. And I will be using radian function. So I'm going to convert the angle, uh, uh, the degree angle into radian using this radian function. So the angle in radian will be stored in this variable, angle radian. All right. Then we are going to print no, the cosine of the function. So we can just say print or solve what calculate the cosine of the angle in radian. Okay. Now let's use y. Y is cosine. Take note. Cosine of what? Angle in radian. Okay. And then we are going to print the value. Okay. Of y. So the cosine of the angle. Oh, I will be using curly brackets here. Okay. The cosine of the angle. Since we have entered the angle in degree, is another curly bracket, and this time I will be using format. Since I have printed two or sets now of variables. So in this case, now I will use first curly brace will be my angle in degree. Okay, okay, that's your angle, and then the second uh, curly brace here is actually the value of my cosine angle in radian. Okay, now let's say print cosine of angle. I have here enclosed with curly braces. Degree is blank. So we will call it blank. Degree is blank. So the first blank will be your angle in degree, and the second blank will be the value of the cosine of that angle. Okay, that's right. Okay, run the code. So here, enter the angle in degrees. Now let's start by entering 90 degrees. Cosine of 90 is, we know, 0. Okay, what's the error here? Format, angle, cosine. Okay, angle, radian. Radian is not defined. Maybe this is radians. Let's try. Okay, let's say 90. Okay. So radians, no, that's the correct function, not radian. All right. So take a look at this one. This is 6.12 times 10 to the negative 17. No? So this is actually approximately 0. So to eliminate this one, I'm going to round off the value of my y. So round off the value of y. Okay. Again, let's run. And then input 90 degrees. Okay, the cosine of the angle 90 degree is 0. Okay, let's try another value. Let's say cosine of 180. Let's say 180 degrees. So it is negative 1, which is also correct. Okay, let's try cosine of 90. No, cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 degree is equivalent to 1, which is correct. So meaning to say, the code is correct. Just take a look at this one. Radians converts the angle in degree into radian. Okay, that's how your math function will work. So in your hands-on programming number 3, you know, this is using the input function in the math module. You are going to solve the following problem using Python. So let me discuss now the problems here. So you will be given only 3 problems because now you will submit this on Wednesday. Okay, now let me read the problem. The quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 can be solved using quadratic formula. So prompt the user to enter the values of a, b, and c. So a, b, and c are actually the coefficient of the quadratic equation. Calculate and display the roots of the quadratic equation. Okay, so try this quadratic equation. So you are going to try your program, you know, to solve the roots of this quadratic equation. So meaning to say you will be displaying 2 roots. Okay, for problem number 2, solve the value of b from the triangle shown below by prompting the user to enter the given sides and angle. Okay, in problem number 2, you use the principles in your trigonometry. So try to search what principles are you going to use to solve this problem. Okay, so problem number 3, this is a time rate problem from your calculus. Now, let me read the problem. Water flows into a vertical cylindrical tank at 12 cubic feet per minute. The surface rises 6 inches per minute. Now, prompt the user to enter the rate of the water flowing. So that's 12 cubic meter per minute, and the rate at which the water surface rises. Calculate and display the radius of the tank. So you are going to create a program that will calculate the radius of the tank using the informations given. All right, so I hope you've learned something from the discussion. Okay, so I will see you next meeting.